Well, hello. First of all, I'd like to say welcome everybody to the Sales Revolution. I'm Ingrid Maynard, founder and managing director of The Sales Doctor, and I am here today with Sarah Pirie-Nally, who calls herself the Chief of Wonder at Wonder and Wander. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you serious? I mean, it is just so fantastic to have you. I knew we were kindred spirits when I met you online, and you were rocking this sequined jacket, and I thought, she's one of my people.
And I had the same feeling when you rocked on your beautiful bright lipstick and yeah, the good vibes. It flowed, hey?
Fantastic, absolutely. Now, Sarah, I'm always curious about people's journeys and, especially to the point that they're at right now. I love to sort of see all of the things that have gone before. And your story is a particularly interesting one for me for a whole host of reasons. So I'm just wondering if you can take us on that journey so that we get a sense of your view of doing business.
Interesting. Yeah. I think like many young women, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up because we didn't necessarily have, really strong role models in diverse fields. And, you sit down with your career counselor and they give you 5 or 6 kind of options, if you like. And funnily enough, I was really good at design at school and campaigned actually to my school to have that offered as a VCE subject. But I didn't actually know what a job in design would look like because it just didn't feel like a career, if you like. You think about the drop-down box and it says like accountant, nurse, doctor. There's these fields that you sort of, aspire for. And I actually just had so much confusion. So I ended up studying a Bachelor of Business, majoring in HR, psychology and marketing, with still absolutely no clue of like what that meant or where that was going to take me.
Yeah.
That's the beginning.
So then what happened there? So that was the beginning, and then what happened?
And then from there, I followed the crumbs. So my dad is a human resourcer, a bit of an HR guru, and I remember finishing my degree and, during uni I had fun jobs in retail and picked up little side hustle-y type experiences, had a little jewelry business for a while there and, just sort of playing around the edges of just making money, if you like, and having a bit of fun. And, I probably, like many young women, had watched a few 80s films with women in power suits and aspired to wear stilettos and like big shoulder pad jackets and look fabulous while kind of taking on the world. So I said to my dad, what should I do now? Like, how do I get a job? And he said, okay, I'm going to sit you down and I'm going to explain to you how to network. And so he said to me, here's 2 people. I want you to write them an email and ask them for a coffee and explain that you're graduating and that you're keen to get some advice. And at those meetings, I want you to ask them their story to get to you about how they've ended up where they are.
Wow.
Listen and see what inspires you. And then at the end of it, make sure that you ask them to introduce you to 2 more people. So by the end of my first week of networking, I had 8 more coffees lined up. And by the end of week 2, I had 3 job offers. And that was super cool because I then had this amazing opportunity to sit down and ask him for advice around my next quest, which was, well, which job do I take and how do I negotiate a salary? And I got such great advice from him around that. And I actually ended up taking my first job in recruitment because I really liked the sound of the pay and the commission and the opportunities to meet people and to dress fancy and have a good time. I won't lie, I was also really excited about the fact they were going to pay for my mobile phone, and I had like a cab charge voucher booklet given to me in my first week, and I was like, are you kidding me? This is so sick. So the glitz and the glamour of business kind of be there, which was kind of cool. That was the beginning. And then from there, I've continued to follow the crumbs. I'm an energy person and I get curious about things and I get intrigued by things. And I think recruitment was such a cool place for me to start because I was looking at job descriptions every single day. And so think about that. As a 21-year-old, you're looking at what people are getting paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. And so I started to see the world in a really different way. And I was like, well, hang on a second, these people, they're all from really different backgrounds. They've had different types of training. They've had different career experiences. And so I very much got inspired back then, doing recruitment and thinking about what was possible. And I look at my bendy, twisty kind of journey now to date and go, well, I've certainly just followed, as I said, the crumbs, the energy, the excitement, and had such an amazing, vibrant, bright, exciting career.
You really, I mean, I just want to go back on a few things here, because I think every person could have a dad like yours. I mean, if only we had that person who was the person that loved us the most in the world, which is a parent usually for the most part, who can also act as a mentor. And so he started your career teaching you to be curious about other people, which is, I mean, that is a fundamental life skill in and of itself, which led you to understand how to master networking. So that's a skill that you're always going to have. You ended up with 3 job offers, and then he helped you to negotiate a salary and a package. And I'm absolutely loving the memory of those cab charge books. Yeah, like it was like magic money. Oh, but wow. And the mobile covered off. But then I really loved the fact that you talk about, just the exposure to what's possible out there career-wise, where people's journeys have led them to, what they're worth, what the market's prepared to pay them. And so how did you get from there to here? Because it's really quite an extraordinary story.
Super fun. So it started in recruitment and I was good at it.
Yes.
Talking to people and figuring out what they're good at and then matching them with potential roles. That just was delightful. But quite quickly, my creativity and my design skills lend me to lots of different things. And so I actually ended up doing quite a bit of employee value proposition work before I even knew what employee value proposition was. So I was working with customers thinking about their brand and how they could attract clients, and really thinking about how they could make sure that it was consistent across their job, across their culture, across, all those sorts of things. And so I ended up actually getting to do some really cool, we called them people on site projects. And I would get put into a business and work with these big glossy clients and help them completely overhaul their recruitment processes. I got to work with Red Bull and Carlson Marketing and Datacom, and suddenly found this really cool little place where I was adding heaps of value in helping them think about their kind of brand principles and how they were going to attract people and how they were going to retain people, but make sure that their promise was woven throughout that whole experience. So this was, early days. But I remember getting to a point, I went into the CEO and said, a bit bored now, like I'm earning really good money, but I would wonder if you would pay me the same, but I could work 4 days. And that was when I was actually in my 20s. And they said yes, which was fabulous. So I took a part-time gig and started playing around the edges around just thinking about what it would look like to own my own business. But as I did my research, I realized I wasn't ready yet. I needed a bit more business kind of, or commercial acumen, if you like. While I had a really, really, really strong understanding of marketing and brand and value propositions and recruitment and jobs to be done, what I didn't fully understand was like the commercial aspects, so some of the kind of P&L type things. So I actually thought to myself, it would be fun to go and work for a big company. And I went and applied to the Commonwealth Bank Australia. And I thought, you know what, I've been working 4 days. I can kind of take a little job in the, just like an entry-level job. So I took like 50% pay cut to start at the Commonwealth Bank.
Okay.
It was a big risk at the time.
It is huge. Yeah.
But I went from earning like nearly $200,000 a year as a 20-something-year-old to taking an 80K base. And within 6 months, I'd been offered 2 promotions. And by the end of like the second year, I was back up at what I was earning, which was just amazing. So the gamble paid off, but more than that, the experiences I got at Commonwealth Bank were just, I don't even know where, like they were mind-bogglingly powerful. So I went from resource management into kind of portfolio and senior resource management, and I ended up with this amazing team. So I got to be a team leader, manager, then a senior manager, and then again kind of got a little bit bored and started talking to senior leaders, and I actually got selected to be put on a design thinking executive education program.
Design Thinking Education
Yeah,
Program. What year are we talking here, Sarah?
2011.
So that's that's really ahead of its time, isn't it? Yeah.
Super ahead of its time. And this
Yeah.
concept of design thinking was really new, and it was just around the time when the Commonwealth Bank had decided they wanted to be seen as innovative and they wanted to invest in innovation. So 12 of us went
Okay.
off to the University of, what was it called? One of the New South Wales ones, and and studied an executive certificate in design thinking with a Stanford professor and an artist. And
Wow.
yeah, we were put through this 4 month kind of immersion. And then after it, we put together a paper and suggested to board that everyone should learn this. It was a super powerful way of approaching problem solving. And Commonwealth Bank went on to train, I think, 10,000 people in design thinking. It was just extraordinary. Yeah,
Wow.
so that was pretty cool. But just after that, I pitched to the executives this idea that I had for an innovation festival called Wired for Wonder, and I actually got to just bring a dream to life within a really big bank, and I got to become Combank's first intrapreneur and bring this absolutely extraordinary, immersive, creative, incredible experience to life. And the next 6 years for me was just play. I just got to spend time with people like Brené Brown and Nolan Bushnell and Guy Kawasaki and Dweck and all sorts of incredible thought leaders. And like I
Yes.
said, just playing, like curating this incredible program, but with a vision to actually help scaffold and build a culture of innovation, not only within the bank, but also more broadly within Australia, by bringing innovative thinking, out there ideas and different ways of doing and approaching kind of things into our atmosphere.
Yes. Yes, clearly, and again, it just really speaks to a forward-thinking organisation that was, because the organisations can say one thing and kind of support study, but then you came back with an idea, so it was like, well, be careful what you wish for, Commonwealth Bank, because here it is, and they backed it, and like you said, you became their first entrepreneur, so you actually had a proving ground for an idea that you knew could be successful, and so you had the opportunity of curating that within a business before really taking it outside. Did you want to talk about your mentor at the Commonwealth Bank? Was it that where you met that
Yeah, so
person?
I had the most phenomenal mentor. It was one of the group executives, Michael Hart. He was our chief information officer, and he was a really fascinating, incredibly intelligent person who really believed in innovation and exploring kind of quite disparate or disconnected kind of thinking to kind of explore innovation. And the beautiful thing for me was he believed in me and he supported my ideas. And I just remember vividly him saying to me, you're capable of amazing things, and I can see that you think really differently, and you don't try and fit in. And it was such a powerful thing for me to hear. And
Yeah.
actually, I've always been quite innovative. I do think differently. I, a bit neurospicy. Like I've got that creative, I've got that creative sort of bent, if you like. But I
Yeah.
also have been programmed by a society, where women are supposed to be a certain way. And I had a level of discomfort being a woman in business that was
Yeah.
quiet. I
Okay.
didn't let it hold me back, but it was always sort of there. So if I was
Yeah.
speaking up in a meeting, I felt like the world was going to swallow me whole. I literally would feel so confident, and I knew what I was saying was valuable, and so I didn't suffer from a confidence perspective, but what I knew was that I was breaking barriers, or I was saying things in ways that maybe people weren't used to hearing, or turning up in ways that people weren't used to seeing. And there was a consciousness for me around that. But
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
allowed me to do was just have a little bit more confidence in my own wonder, my own, excellence, if you like. And so I stopped playing small and I started wearing hot pink to work and wearing my lipstick and just being myself and actually feeling a bit more fearless. And as a result of that, the value that I was able to bring into the organisation completely scaffolded. And
Yes.
I've got a really big belief, and that is that when you invest in your people, I saw the other day this beautiful thing, and it was like, spend 5 minutes getting to know someone in your organization and you'll get 5 hours of epic work. And it was like one of those things that hit you in the feels. I
Yes.
don't believe it's like do it to tick the box. I actually believe when we
Yeah.
build good relationships and we allow people
Yeah.
to feel safe to turn up as themselves, and we
Mm.
don't judge them and we don't belittle them, but we actually see them and lift them and kind of like get behind them, that's where
Mm.
magic happens, not only
Yeah.
for an organization and their outcomes, but also for the culture of the organization. And I
Yes.
got to be part of that experience. And I've tried to take that wherever I've gone, since, to
Mm.
encourage people to be their whole self and to, be loud and proud or quiet and obsessed or whatever it is that they are. I'm like, you do you, and let's find ways to work within your wonder zone.
Because this is okay. Because I think that sometimes people need permission to be themselves almost, and I think sometimes we talk about women being conditioned, but I also think men are conditioned as well with the navy suit. There's a uniform that happens everywhere, and that uniform is also, an outside representation of their thinking. And all it takes is, like, when you started to come to work with your hot pink suit on, your lipstick, and just being fearless as you described it. I dare say that in doing that, you actually created the space for other people to step into, which was about being themselves as well, which is absolutely
Like,
extraordinary.
I love that.
So
I called it my coming out at work, and and I've also come out of the spiritual closet at work too. Like,
yes.
what will people think of me? Like, I'm into neuroscience. Like, I've got a diploma in neuropsychology. I'm a qualified hypnotherapist. I'm also a Reiki master and a neurolinguistic programming master. I love crystals. I meditate. I absolutely love, sitting and pondering and philosophizing around, like, where did we come from and how does that all kind of work? And I think actually there are parts of yourself that you keep hidden because you worry that it will like erode your credibility or people won't take you as seriously. But that's all just made up.
It is made up.
Like, actually, who cares at the end of the day? Like, I can
Yeah.
be a SHIT smart kind of neuroscience geek and also
Yeah.
want to, like, I don't know, finger paint with my kids in the corner and like believe in creativity and nourish their wonder too. So it's kind of, I think the permission is super important. And I think actually as
Yes.
leaders, the greatest gift you can give your people is embodiment. Because if you're
Yes.
turning up whole and in
Yes.
yourself and not,
Yes.
insecure, you hold that space for
Yes.
others to bring their whole self
100%.
and,
Yeah.
mm,
I totally agree, because I think that, the absence of fear is where, judgment kind of falls away. And that requires people to be that. I've just almost knocked over my own microphone then, Sarah. Now, I want to come back to, because I'd really like to look at the way that you embody everything that you are, particularly tapping right back into that spirituality and how you bring that into wonder and wander. So when I talk about, the mattering model, which is really important to me, and it's something that I think really is the essence of the organization and how we treat other people. And every organization's got its own set of, well, I would say spirit, heart, soul, absolutely. So it's really about, to me, I simplify it down by talking about how we make our customer, and really that's anyone in the organization, inside, outside, that we deliver value to, making sure that they know that they matter because they do, and bringing that heart and soul there. And it's how we create those experiences. Now, this is what you're all about. So Wonder and Wander is all about creating experience for customers. So I would love for you to describe the experience that you've worked really hard to create for your customers. And I know that it depends on, the event and the customer and all of that. But what are some of the things that you do to ensure that customers know that they matter, and how would you describe the experience that you create?
That's a great question. We always start with, like, how do we yeah, how do we want to leave people feeling? And it's with that sense of, you know, wonder and awe, and, you know, you start at the end, if you like, and then you kind of reverse engineer it from there. And, you know, Steve, my husband, I call him a joy architect. He's excellent at figuring out like what makes people tick and things to think about. And I'm great at that too. I have a real appreciation for diversity. I got sent the most beautiful photo from one of our videographers. She was like, I'm looking through all of the content, and what's making me smile is that you keep like all the footages of you smiling at the other ladies and what they're saying and just soaking them in and just being so in awe of them. And I find, you know, that is a really beautiful place to start as an event designer or an architect of customer experiences or experience strategy or whatever you're kind of thinking about. We absolutely love dopamine, but we also obsess over serotonin. You know, like dopamine is the fun, it's the pop, it's the unexpected, it's the surprise. And serotonin is the satisfaction from just like doing things well and making sure things are kind of architected and executed well. The tension between those two, you know, good production, good experience, making sure that you tick all the boxes just to make sure people are fed on time and that things are kind of like, you know, run well. Architecting the like unexpected, that for us is like that's our kind of secret sauce, really.
Yes. Okay. Would you say also that, you know, how you talked about the photographer capturing you being in awe of these women, that also speaks to me of somebody who's incredibly present for other people to really capture their joy in the moment as well, because that also speaks to me of a capacity that's part of the experience that you're creating for your customers as well.
Yeah, and like, you know, footnote here, I, like everybody else, get distracted. That's the person that I am. And I have 5 children, you know, so like, of course, so we actively try and practice presence because we actually know that is an incredibly important skill to try and master, and being conscious and aware of the fact that it's actually not my default and that it's not easy for me does make me work a little bit harder than probably most people. As I continue to practice that, it gets easier and easier and more natural. And, you know, the payoff is there, right? Like being able to sit and marvel and listen and like get something out of an interaction. It's a bit selfish, but it's quite a beautiful experience.
Yeah, no, that's because for me, like I find that's where the satisfaction comes from, because you're really absorbing everything in that moment. That's just incredible. Okay, so I talk about organizational magnetism happening when customers wouldn't even think of going anywhere else, and you know, when there's so much pressure on buying decision makers to ensure that they're delivering return on expenditure, return on investment, return on capital, etc. Talk us through what your customers are able to do or feel or think or be as a direct result of an experience that they get through Wonder and Wander.
What a great question. It's funny because maybe this is provocative, but I want my customers to go to competitors and experience other things, because I actually, I believe in, maybe I'm like an anti-loyalist or something, but the weird part about that is because I'm so encouraging of, you know, seemingly competitive products or experiences, people do keep coming back because like, oh, I've got the freedom, and especially in the work that we do. So we are community builders, you know, and naturally as you start to deepen your roots within a community and an experience, loyalty starts to come up because you feel stuff, you feel love and you feel acceptance and you feel belonging. And belonging is such a powerful human emotion. As we know, a lot of brands are seeking to create belonging, connection, and that's what we do. That's like that is our default. Our default is protecting belonging. So probably, you know, like I said, controversially, we want people to experience belonging in multiple places and spaces, because actually through that they're going to discover things about themselves. Ultimately, Wonder and Wander is about shining light on the stuff that makes you tick. And the stuff that makes you tick is going to be different for every single person. So it's quite a unique and a personalised type of journey for people to go on, and we love connecting people with these like other opportunities to learn or grow, or have an experience that will help them evolve, you know, in some way, shape or form. I suppose our kind of signature stuff is we architect belonging. We absolutely create this like sense of, oh my goodness, I'm free to be my whole self here. You know, I don't have to be a certain way or turn up in any other way other than like, we've got a couple of rules, and that's like no gossiping and no backstabbing. Like, we just want people to be real and like actually lean in and have the tough conversations if they need to. And as a result of that, we create this, you know, connection and this, you know, intoxicating sort of experience for people, which they keep coming back to again and again and again. And you know, it's funny because Steve and I, we've had a couple of different communities, and we actually had a non-compete agreement after we sold one of our communities, which the reason we sold was there was multiple partners involved and we were ready to kind of focus on something a little bit different. And while we waited out that non-compete, we were awkward. We didn't really know what to do with ourselves. We didn't know how to interact with people because our default is inclusion and community and getting people together and having what we kind of call like, you know, courageous conversations and creating these sort of different spaces where people can be themselves. So it's just such a joy for us to be able to be back online and inviting people to be part of these experiences. The testimonials that we get are that, you know, I feel a sense of belonging and connection. I feel like I can be myself. I've learnt things about myself. I've gone on and like negotiated a higher pay or sold a business or, you know, met someone new, or, you know, change happens here is the kind of like bit. And we've really started to do some fantastic impact reporting to look at like, well, what happens and how do we actually make sure that we're measuring that so that it's meaningful and lasting and not just like that was a fun experience.
Well, I would love for you to bring some of those experiences to life for us, because one of the things that I think I'm really loving about what you're talking about is that need for belonging. I would argue that there's a huge opportunity for organisations to create places where people feel like they absolutely belong, because they resonate with the values of the organisation, they resonate with the energy of the organisation, they want to be part of it. When people feel like they belong, they're more connected, they're more committed to innovation. All of the things that you've talked about, it really is incredibly intuitive for me, because you're saying that you're the architects. You architect belonging, which I think is incredible, and a lot of organisations can learn from that. So give us like a bit of a feel for some of the experiences that your customers have enjoyed and talked to you about.
Yeah, fabulous. I mean, Wired for Wonder was quite a famous one. There was a funny little experience there where we had thousands of people coming to this, and I, in my head, thought it was just an event, and I was confused because I had no idea that it was a community. And so that like moment, I suppose, where I realised, oh, hang on a second, we create really cool experiences for people, and that's great. But Nurture Her was probably one of the best experiences for me, where I intentionally went to build community, go beyond event. She Evolves is my latest community, and that is OMG, next level, incredible. Like, talk about zesting all the experience and putting it into one place. So She Evolves is a radically inclusive community for women of all ages and stages. And we specifically come together and practice being in community. And the beauty of that is you don't just come to an event, you join a community that continues to scaffold and be part of your life beyond this beautiful holiday that we have. And it's the best girls' holiday you could possibly imagine. And we've got women of all ages, and people bring their daughters and their nieces, and it ends up being this absolutely insanely beautiful experience. We had Wendy McCarthy, the matriarch of, you know, Australia at 82 there, dancing on the dance floor with my 7-year-old daughter Stella, who opened the first event. But we've shifted the dynamic there to go, we know we want to gather and practice community for business, and we know we want to practice community for life. So we have two kind of experiences that we've designed for people to kind of tuck into there. Then we've got stewardship, and stewardship is our, oh God, that's a community that we've literally poured probably 4 or 5 years worth of architecture into. And we're having our first gathering in Antarctica in March. We are taking people like Peter Hillary and Simon Bowen and really incredible thought leaders. We've partnered with the University of Tasmania. They're actually creating an 18-month research project around this experience to look at the transformational power of both experiences and places.
Wow.
People think differently. And the idea for us is, let's stop talking about climate change and start talking about stewardship. Because stewardship is about leaving every place that you encounter, every experience that you encounter, better than you found it.
Yes.
So that's a different way of thinking, and actually off the back of that, Simon Bowen is helping us craft a stewardship manifesto. And, you know, the stewardship community is going to be a community of like-minded business people who have power and resources to do better business. That one's pretty next level. Like, it's a really dialed in high-level mastermind, and we can't wait to kind of bring that one to life. And the final one for us is entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship is sort of for those, you know, you maybe have done up to $1 million, maybe you've done 10 million, but it's that kind of in between EO and YPO where you've like had some success, but you want to be surrounded by other people of different stages and ages of their business. We've actually partnered with the Monash University Business School to curate a really beautiful program where we'll look at growth and leadership and what people kind of need from a people perspective as well, to scaffold their business dreams and take their businesses to the next level. So that's our kind of next community that we're launching as well.
You are creating change everywhere you go, and it's coming from such a place of rebirth and real genuine creation, because it's coming from an intention of love, and it's coming from an intention of possibility. That's what I'm hearing from you. I'm just so excited about all of those programs, especially the stewardship one. I think that's next level. And I think that just that way of being in the world transcends just one cause. It goes way beyond to, I mean, yeah, it's a way. Anyway, I could keep talking to you for hours. One of the things that strikes me though, with an event, with the events that you've just described, I know you talk about key people. You even mentioned Stella opening one of those ceremonies, which is absolutely outstanding. But how do you ensure that everyone on the team creates an experience that's memorable for customers, you know, who are looking for something really, really special here? They're seekers. They're coming because they're like-minded. They're drawn to it energetically. And you know, how do you translate that, regardless of whether they have direct impact, like direct contact with customers, or whether they're just sort of more in the background? How do you kind of align everyone to create that experience?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And because we've had a couple of experiences where we've had to go back to the drawing board and like rethink and reimagine this. So I would say, like, when you've got your shit together and you've got a really good blueprint within your business, customers feel that. So we will, if there is chaos happening within business, which happens, by the way, like you can be well-intentioned and well-oiled and then things happen, you know, in market or there's disruption or there's things that sort of interrupt like the flow, or someone leaves and you're picking up pieces or suddenly, you know, stuff happens in business that can create that kind of frantic energy, which then hits customer. So we're getting better at really doing that kind of like energy check on the business and really kind of coming in and actually thinking of it bigger than just a process. Like we use FigJam to do customer experience audits and look at every touch point, but we also look at across those touch points, who are the owners and are those owners set up for success? So, you know, that's an interesting lens to put on things, because a lot of times designers are just looking at, well, is it consistent from a design perspective? And process people are just looking at, well, does it work? But like to have that HR lens as well. So you're literally doing people, process, technology kind of, and design across those things. That's when you get what I call the braid. And the braid is when you think about CX, TX, PX. So CX is your customer experience, PX is your people experience, T is your technology or your design experience. Or you could even think of that as your brand, you know, like that kind of thing. But you're trying to braid energetically these things together and trying to get that like beautiful flow where things actually aligning. And we actually just worked with a client recently, and God, it has been tough but amazingly fun. Because when we did the audit, there were holes all over it from a brand perspective, holes all over it from a people and a process perspective. So we've had to completely rewrite and create standard operating systems. We've had to change out some of the systems. We've had to refresh brand elements. We've had to update terms and conditions and make sure things are there. And we've had to train people to make sure that everyone's sort of on board. But as we've gone on that journey, we keep engaging and creating human connection so that every person is part of this beautiful artwork that you've co-created, and they feel a sense of engagement and pride, knowing that we've taken it from the chaos to the calm and that they were part of that whole process. You should see the energy in the organization. You know, even just like in our Slack channel, the kudos and the gratitude and the thanks and the excitement and the compliments that are starting to flow. They weren't there before, but they are there now.
Oh my God.
You know, you start to see, as I said, braid it, and then you get that energy alignment, and then you get that consistent customer experience, and you experience the knock-on effects from there.
I have never heard anyone describe, you know, business systems or business functions described together as a braid, but it's such a beautiful description because it's so visually makes sense, you know, but it goes beyond that for me too. I'm just so inspired by everything that you're talking about here, Sarah. And as much as I would love to sit here and talk to you all day, which we will one day, but for now, is there anything that you'd like us to know about, or where can we find you?
Yes. So Wonder and Wonder next year are working with clients to alchemize their customer, not just their customer experience, but also their overarching experience strategy, and, you know, thinking about not just customer, but people. And I love, you know, I've got a background in HR and design. My husband's got a background in travel and experience design. And then the people that we work with are super bright and clever and creative and thinking about things in different ways. So, yeah, we're looking forward to working with some clients. We're at a place where we're ready to kind of take that on, which is quite cool.
Okay.
But also our experiences. We've got a very ripe, you know, ecosystem of events and experiences that people can drop into, whether that's She Evolves in Bali in May, or She Evolves in Byron Bay, our business retreat in August, which you're going to be at. We've got stewardship happening in March in Antarctica, entrepreneurship happening between Melbourne and Tassie on the Virgin Voyages cruise locally in February, and no doubt more experiences will pop up. So, you know, we're committed to making sure we've got lots of different spaces and places for people to come and get the energy upgrade. You can't just learn this sort of stuff online.
No. Oh, right? God. Absolutely not. No.
Come and immerse yourself in wonder through wonder.
Yeah.
And then we can continue that experience after we've had that beautiful in-person bump where naturally you're going to get the upgrade by the people that you're hanging out with and the experiences that you're having.
Oh, my goodness. Can you just finish us up by telling us, like, circling right back to your mentor and what he said to you 20 years later?
Oh, God, I can't even, I think he said, oh, that's right. So he was like, look, you know, keep being you, because in a sea of grey, you are neon.
Yeah, it was that. But remember he said, because you remember he was saying to you about you said about the spiritual, I can't remember what it was now. Chris might have to edit this out, but there was something that you said that he said to you. He said, I wanted to do that back then, but I was too afraid to step out.
No, this was another guy. So there was I've had some amazing mentors in my time, which has just been absolutely extraordinary. But there was an amazing guy in business in Melbourne who he had wanted to talk about spiritual intelligence.
That's it. That's what it was.
To talk about that within business, because they just started to talk about and introduce the concept of emotional intelligence. And what he really wanted to talk about was spiritual intelligence, but he watered it down. And you know what? My advice, if I was going to leave anything with anyone, is don't water it down. There's something that you're aching to talk about that, because that's where you get thought leadership. And thought leadership is swimming against the crowd. Like, you literally look up YouTube, the forming of a thought, And it's like this amazing visual of these like little things that are like swimming around and sparking and moving and like creating these different connections. So for you to create new thoughts and to be a thought leader, there's going to be a bit of like grit and grind and discomfort, but stick with the discomfort, because that's, I reckon, where the magic happens.
Oh my gosh. Don't water it down. That's going to be one of the big takeaways out of here, and that spiritual intelligence, that's absolute gold. So thank you. I'm glad we got there, because that was one of the big takeaways from our initial conversation, Sarah. It was just so incredible to think that somebody 20 years ago was trying to get there, but like you said, was watering it down back then because he felt that someone wasn't, or the people weren't ready to hear it. But we're definitely ready to hear from you. I think, you are of your time, and I'm so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much, Sarah Pirie-Nally.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to hang out with you next year.